It is difficult to get a man to understand something when his salary depends on his not understanding it. That's Upton Sinclair, and I'm John Rose. And today, I'm going to take a much closer look at anti-aging strategies for cancer, heart disease, and dementia, with a special emphasis on Alzheimer's disease, Parkinson's disease, and Lewy Body Dementia. And I want you guys to understand there's a unity of disease or a oneness of disease that explains all of this. And we have to understand that none of these anti-aging theories will ever satisfy all the necessities and be complete in their understanding. And they all recognize that because none of them understand the cause of disease. And that's because the whole system does not use logic. They're guilty of modus ponens. They're putting the cart before the horse for a problem that's within our control. They admit that. In 1993, in a New England Journal of Medicine study, they came out and said that 70% of our diseases are lifestyle related, and that 8 out of 9 of the killers are lifestyle related. That's 89%. Now I know from experience over the last 3.5 decades that those numbers should be more like 95, 98%. Very few diseases are actually due to a genetic defect. Sure, genes load the gun, but it's a lifestyle that pulls the trigger. And even the genes are a reflection of our ancestors' lifestyles. So the lifestyles and the environment itself is what really matters. And that's why no one has a decent theory of aging. And they admit it, it's a mystery to them. They admit they don't know the cause to most of our diseases. If we take a look at the 25 age-related diseases and the 22 other medical conditions that are affecting older people, 45 out of the 47, they come out and say, we don't know, except a couple of them will say, yeah, we got some carcinogens over here. We've got some tobacco and alcohol. Yeah, sure, that can cause the disease, but otherwise they don't know the cause. And then for the other 2 diseases that they claim they know, they only prove correlation, not causation. And correlation does not equal causation. So they conflate the 2. It's evidence-based medicine. We've got proof it exists. Do you? Can you show it causes anything? No, you can't. But nonetheless, when you look at those 25 age-related diseases, 40% of them, or 10 of them, have to do with our nervous system. So I've been studying this for over 3.5 decades. Created over 8,000 files, 568 files on diseases, 305 files on aging. Of those, 175 on cancer. I've been studying this a long time. I study the concept of totality, unlike our so-called experts that don't study this concept of totality. This is one of the reasons why they don't know the cause of disease. You have to look at the big picture. You can't look at our problems individually. You go to a general practitioner and they're going to say, we don't know what you got, but I'll send you to a specialist. They can give you some tests. Got 130 specialists we can send you to. We can test you, send them off to one of 13 pathologists. They'll diagnose you. You come back, you go to the specialist. I finally know what I got. I got blah, 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 blah. Got this real long 24-syllable word. Now I know what I got. They know what I got. No, they don't know what you got. All they did is they named your symptoms in their language. If they knew what you got, they'd tell you what you did, the cause. They don't know the cause, so they're openly admitting they don't know the cause. So what's that Turkish proverb? An ignorant man is to be feared more than a lion. Does that relate to the Latin proverb? The doctor is to be feared more than the physician, the disease? Well, it should be the ignorant doctor should be feared more than the disease. Are these doctors ignorant? They admit they don't know. I guess that's admitting you're ignorant, right? Think about it, folks. 25 age-related diseases, 10 of those, 40%, have to do with our nervous system. Now we're talking about dementia. Talking about Alzheimer's and Parkinson's and Lewy Body Dementia. We look at the other 22 other medical conditions that affect the elderly. 11 of the 22 are in the digestive system. I analyzed all these diseases. I broke them into the body systems. And look what I found. 50% of the diseases that are affecting almost everyone, especially and including the elderly. Again, we get, if you look at the ICD, they've got like 17,000 diseases with 120 underpinning words. That's 1.6 million different conditions we can say you have. They know what we got. They got a name for it. They got a treatment too. But they don't know the cause and they can't remove it. They don't study the lifestyle factors. So once again, you go to a specialist, they name the symptom, and they don't know the cause. They don't study the concept of totality. They don't use logic. They put the cart before the horse for a problem within our control. When this happens to you, the end result is you don't know the cause of the disease. So what do? Instead, you come up with all these theories. All these theories are, at best, subsequent causes. You'll see the same thing said over and over and over. You got oxidative stress, or you have mitochondrial dysfunction, or metabolic dysfunction, or DNA methylation defects. And sure, these are actually effects that can become a subsequent cause, and they can cause problems. But why are you having methylation problems? Why are you over methylated or under methylated? Methylation just turns genes on or off. So yeah, there are problems we have. This is what our aging specialists are doing. When you study what they study and look at their theories, what they're basing things on, they go look at the oxidative stress. What is oxidative stress? It's more free radicals than the antioxidants. The free radicals outnumber the antioxidants. What's the solution there? Well, that's pretty simple. Where are the antioxidants? They're in the fruits and the vegetables. The things that are healing us, folks, are in the fruits and the vegetables, but it's very confusing, especially when you go to these anti-aging specialists, because 2 of the 7 anti-aging specialist files that I have are on 2 people that are promoting the high-fat, low-carbohydrate diet, which increases mortality rates by 30%. They think it's a solution because when you look at all the problems that they say we have, one of them is metabolic syndrome, or metabolic syndrome X, or syndrome X, or insulin resistance. These people are so sick they can't even deal with their primary fuel source. This is what happens to young children that are epileptic and they put them on a ketogenic diet. What are they doing? They can't function with their primary fuel source, so they put them on the backup system. So you see people like Jordan Peterson and Joe Rogan, and they go to a carnivore diet and they get rid of their depression, they get rid of whatever that skin condition was that Joe Rogan had. They think it's a solution. Well, you guys were having that problem. You're having metabolic syndrome. So your solution was, well, let's not use the primary fuel source anymore. We'll work on this high-fat, low-carbohydrate diet, high animal protein, so we don't eat up our own protein. So it creates a lot of confusion. And to make any sense out of this, we got to realize there are 10 main dietary mistakes we're making. You've heard me say this many times, right? We're making 5 main mistakes based on 5 things we mastered. The fire, cooking the food. Mastered the animals, now we're eating animals we're not designed to eat. We don't have the anatomy to eat the animals. I'm not telling you this, your anatomy does. I can't believe there are people promoting this. Have you never looked at your anatomy? Read the user's manual. Read your anatomy. Look at your digestive system. Look at every anatomical characteristic we have. We clearly fit in the same class as the frugivores. We're not in the carnivore class or the omnivore class or the herbivore class or the granivore class. We're in the frugivore class. The reason why we have so many problems, we're not satisfying our needs, and of all of our needs, we're eating unnatural food. These 5 mistakes I'm talking about, cooking our food, eating animals we're not designed to eat, and then we're eating plants we're not designed to eat, then we're processing foods and we're using chemicals. All 5 of these mistakes makes our food unnatural. Most of our problems, most of our diseases, most of our illnesses and ill behaviors can be traced back to these 5 main mistakes that makes our food unnatural. We're eating unnatural food. We are what we eat. It's so simple, it's mind-boggling. But when we eat unnatural food, now we got bad eating habits. 5 main bad eating habits. So 5 things we mastered: fire, animals, plants, the Industrial Revolution, and the agricultural revolution was the plants, the Industrial Revolution are the machines, and the chemical revolution would be the chemicals. But then we're making 5 main eating habit mistakes. We eat way too often. So when people correct the 6th mistake, if there are 5 and number 6, we eat too often. If you take intermittent fasting, you can keep eating the same stuff and see great results. Do some intermittent fasting and quit eating animals and you get great results. Do some intermittent fasting and quit eating the plants you're not designed to eat, like bread and things like that. You get great results. That's why there's so much confusion. Very few people understand that we're making these 10 main dietary mistakes. Especially that first one, which sets everything else up. If we didn't make the first mistake, we wouldn't make the other 5 mistakes. The other 4 mistakes, which would be the first 5 mistakes. Now we got 2 groups of mistakes. 5 more mistakes based on eating unnatural food, bad eating habits. We eat too often, we eat too much, we eat when we're stressed. We eat bad food combinations. We drink liquids with our meals. My gosh, I saw someone the other day talking about one of his patients. Came to him, had digestive issues, acid reflux for 20 years. He told him, quit drinking liquids with your meals. Yeah, I tell you guys that all the time. It dilutes your digestive juices. It immediately solved his digestive issues that he's had for 20 years. Don't drink liquids with your meals. So we got to correct these 5 bad eating habits, but the best way to start is stop eating unnatural food or cut it back drastically. The best way to do that is to take a solid food vacation, because it's too difficult to say, okay, I'm going to eat better. I'm going to eat less cooked food. I'm going to eat less animals. I'm going to eat less bread and pasta and grains and things, plants I'm not meant to eat. I got to cook them and eat them. Beans. I'm going to eat less processed foods. Boy, that's one of the big ones, isn't it? And I'm going to stay away from those conventionally grown foods. I want organic everything. And again, these are 5 huge mistakes that makes our food unnatural. And that is the root to why we suffer on this planet. We could solve virtually every problem we have, and we wouldn't age as poorly as we do. And I'm all for aging research and finding out more about the telomeres, but we've got some people that are anti-aging specialists. I did 3 videos on Aubrey de Grey, how Joe Rogan exposed him because he was on his show drinking alcohol, saying, yeah, I got a cold, but alcohol's going to help me. I don't think nutrition makes a difference. Might live a year or 2 longer if you eat better. No, you're talking about several decades longer if you eat the right way, and it's the quality of life. My God, it's 2024. I was born in 1954. I'll be 70 in a couple months. I can't begin to tell you how great I feel. Can't begin to tell you. I can't even relate to it. Actually, in many ways, I feel better than ever because I've been really stretching my back a bunch in the last 2 years. I've been stretching for over 40 years, but not as intensively with my back as I have been. And it's made such a huge difference. Again, every year my life is getting better and better and better. I'm not aging like everyone else. My vision is great. My hearing is great. I don't have any health issues, none whatsoever. Most of the elderly in our country are failures of living because they're eating unnatural food and they have these 5 bad eating habits. So if you look at someone like David Sinclair, for example, he's one of these anti-aging specialists. That's exactly what he did. He changed his diet. If you look at these 5 main mistakes and the other 5 mistakes, so there's 2 groups of mistakes based on 2 groups of needs. I'm going to digress for a second. I always say the same thing over and over and over. All we have to do to solve every problem on this planet that's within our control, satisfy 2 groups of needs. First one is based on the law of cause and effect. We're living systems. We're subject to that law. There's 12 essential needs. But then there's a ripple effect where effects can become causes, just like if we have methylation defects or metabolic dysfunction. So we have another group of needs. So there's 2 groups of needs and 2 groups of mistakes. The first group of needs and first group of mistakes are based on the law of cause and effect. We're living systems. We have a species-specific diet. But then there's a ripple effect. Now we're eating unnatural food. Now we have 5 bad eating habits. So 2 groups of needs, 2 groups of mistakes. And I recently heard, what's his name, Master John, I believe it was. I heard him speak recently. I said, I bet he heard me say this, because the way he said it was basically the same thing I've been saying. He says, in order to get healthy, you got to think of your body as a 2-layer cake. We all got that base layer, right? Got those basic essential needs. He didn't emphasize the importance of having a species-specific diet, and this is where there's so much confusion, because we're in such a state of denial, we can't admit that we're not designed to eat the things we love. That's how denial works. But anyway, he said we all have those basic needs, but then he said we have this second layer, and that's because of the damage we've done. Again, we have 2 groups of needs. Cause and effect, ripple effect. That's the science, that's the art. The ripple effect has to do with the damage we've done to ourselves. So we damage ourselves physically, we damage the environment, we even damage society to a point where society attacks early. And every one of us wake up guaranteed we're going to, we wake up born into a belief system, way of life, that guarantees we're going to have the same problems, and they're going to keep getting worse that our ancestors had. They're just getting worse and worse and worse. And why is it? Because the food is getting worse and worse and worse and worse. It's really that simple. So what are good anti-aging strategies? Number 1 is the food you eat, the thoughts you think. We have 12 essential needs: air, water, food, sunshine, exercise, and sleep. Exercise is so important. You got to move your body. Why do people have mitochondrial dysfunction, folks? because they're not exercising. What relationship is that? Is there between the two? Well, mitochondria are organelles inside of all of our cells that produce the energy. What I'm doing right now is the mitochondria producing the energy. And 85% of the oxygen I'm breathing in right now are going to these little guys creating this energy. So, exercise upregulates mitochondrial function. If you have mitochondrial dysfunction, start moving the body and feeding the mitochondria and get some oxygen in you, which will also help get the lymph system moving, which is going to tie into how all these body systems work. Remember, to get healthy, folks, we got to think of our body as a chariot being pulled by dozens of horses. Got those 12 essential needs: the air, water, food, sunshine, exercise, sleep, our thoughts, our emotions, the community we live in. We have to procreate. We got to be free from things outside of control that don't belong inside of us. And then there's the environment itself. And then we got 12 more horses because we have 12 body systems. If we separate the musculoskeletal system into two, and then make sure we keep the fascia system separate. And out of all 12 of those body systems, I showed earlier that 10 of the 25, or 40% of the age-related diseases are in our nervous system. 11 of the 22 of the other medical conditions that are affecting the elderly are in the digestive system. Death begins in the colon. All you young people are having digestive issues. And then when we get older, there's a colon-mind connection. I've got files on this. I got a file on the vagus nerve that connects the two. If the mind is tight, so is the colon. If the colon is tight, so is the mind. 12 body systems. When we look at our nervous system, everyone knows about the sympathetic and the parasympathetic, the fight or flight, the rest and the digest. The problem with stress is when we're stressed, we shut down the rest and digest system. So the biggest mistake we make when we get under stress is we eat. But then there's one more part of our autonomic nervous system. That's the enteric nervous system. We have a second brain in our intestines. It's embedded in the lining membrane of our intestines all the way from our esophagus all the way down to our anus. It's a second brain. We make a lot of neurotransmitters there. 90% of our serotonin and 50% of our dopamine. When you look at my file on Parkinson's disease, you'll notice dopamine highlighted in a certain color so you can see it all scattered throughout the whole file. That's 214 pages long. Parkinson's is a dopamine deficiency disease. Why? Because we're killing the nerve cells. There's a oneness of disease, folks. It's so simple. Our bodies are nothing but a bunch of cells and then two main fluids, which are two of those body systems. One is the blood, it feeds the cells. That's the circulatory system. The other is the bathroom. It cleans the cells. That's the lymphatic system. Bunch of cells, two fluids. What our medical system doesn't understand is the concept of totality. So when they look at the cells, they don't say the concept of totality. You go to an eye, ear, and nose specialist, and as I was saying earlier, I believe, that this doctor just woke up saying, look, I'm cutting out all these nasal polyps, not realizing what's the cause of inflammation. And she found the cause by looking at the diet, but then she got sucked into the carnivore diet because there's so much confusion in this area. So what happens when this waste matter in our lymph system doesn't get filtered, several things can happen. It can back up into tissues, or because of the ionic pressure, it's so high, then cells can't get rid of their waste matter. When you look at all of my diseases, especially my files on the nervous system, especially my files on Alzheimer's and Parkinson's and Lewy Body Dementia, when you look at these files, you'll see I highlight the word accumulate in a special color. So look at this, things are accumulating. If it's what we don't eliminate, we accumulate. That's our problem in life. We're putting in the wrong fuel. That's why we have all these digestive issues. 11 out of 22 of most of the diseases are in the digestive system, the wrong fuel. When we do that, it then damages the other systems, especially when we damage the kidneys, which not only filter the blood, but they filter the lymph system, and this is the key. When the lymph system doesn't get filtered, two things can happen. It can back up, and I explain that disease process in Disease Mysteries Revealed. Put a link down below. But then it can also keep waste matter from getting eliminated. So it accumulates. Wasn't that long ago when our so-called experts said, oh my God, we got to rewrite the medical books. We found a new lymphatic system in the brain. We got some glial cells up there. We'll call it the lymphatic lymph system, or the lymphatic system. It only works at night. That's why sleep is so important. So when you look at those 12 essential needs and consider all of our needs and then all those body systems, that's horses that are pulling our chariot, we got to make sure all those horses are strong. Is your sleep horse strong? If your sleep horse isn't strong, if you're not getting sleep, you're not healing. You're not cleaning your brain. So it accumulates, and they don't know why it accumulates because they don't study the lymph system. They admit it accumulates, and you see it scattered throughout my books or my files. But again, they don't understand what happens when the lymphatic system doesn't get filtered. You know, everything in our body works by ionic pressure, osmotic flow. High pressure goes to low pressure. If there's too much garbage in our lymphatic system, cells can't get rid of their own waste matter, which leads to insulin sensitivity or type 2 diabetes. I did a video on that. I called it Type 2 Diabetes is Cellular Constipation. Cells can't get rid of their own waste matter because there's too much waste matter inside of the lymphatic system that surrounds all of our cells. It's a bathroom for our cells. We eliminate, there's one bathroom, our cells eat, they eliminate. But we don't eliminate, we accumulate. And it can keep things from getting out of the body, so things accumulate. That's what happens with Lewy Body Dementia, alpha-synucleons. And then as Dr. Lewy said, oh, they're Lewy bodies, they're accumulating in the brain. Why are things accumulating in the brain? Because the lymphatic system isn't getting rid of it. It's too dirty. And what happens with Parkinson's disease, if the waste matter goes back into the tissues, wherever it goes, it burns them, it kills it. So with Parkinson's disease, it's our own acidic waste matter that's burning our nerve cells, and the nerve cells produce the dopamine. And Parkinson's is a dopamine deficiency disease, but remember, 50% of our dopamine is produced inside of our enteric nervous system in our gut. And most of our guts are in bad shape, most of our brains are in bad shape. And again, you look at the 22 other medical conditions that are affecting the elderly and the 25 age-related diseases. 50% are in the digestive system, and then when you get older, 40% go into the nervous system and go into our brain. There's a connection there, folks. So when you see Alzheimer's disease, it's a little bit different than Parkinson's. With Parkinson's, the waste matter is just killing the cells that then are not there to produce the dopamine deficiency. With Alzheimer's, it's a different story. You still got the same problem. The waste matter is backing up into the brain and irritating the membranes and creating a plaque. They call it amyloid plaque. They got quite a few different names for amyloid plaque. They even call it ADDL. But anyway, things are accumulating. And again, what we do not eliminate, we accumulate. Now, there's so much more I want to share with you guys. One of the most important things I want you to understand is the role you play in getting healthy. You've got to find out why you're sick. You've got to study the condition you have, find out what our so-called experts say it is, and then understand that the body goes through stages that I explained in Disease Mysteries Revealed, where the body has 2 short-term self-limited diseases and 4 long-term stages of disease. And it's not complicated. You have to take it upon yourself to educate yourself. You got to be willing to spend the time and the effort to learn why you're sick so you can then be motivated to do something about it. So I'm offering a special right now, folks. I offered this a year ago when I did my video on everything you ever want to know about cancer. And I explained the definition of metastasis and how it's a transfer of a disease-producing agency from one part of the body to the other, and them not knowing the disease-producing agency is the lymphatic system. Nothing is spreading. The lymphatic system is ubiquitous, just like the fascia system is ubiquitous. And I'll come back to that in a moment. If I cannot get too distracted from where I'm trying to go now. So again, with Alzheimer's, what you've got is that same plaque, that's an irritation of the waste matter that creates a plaque. The same thing happens in our colon. We create a plaque in there too. And again, that leads to the condition. So when you look at the things that accumulate in the brain with Alzheimer's, they got 6 different metals, soft metals, and heavy metals. You got aluminum, copper, fluoride, lead, mercury, and zinc. And even though zinc can accumulate a deficiency, it can cause a problem because now we're not able to kick in enough glutathione to get rid of other things that can accumulate in the brain. So it's not complicated. You've got to take the time and learn how this all works. So as I mentioned, I'm going to offer the same type of special I offered last time. Is if you hire me by the hour, I got a half-hour rates, or by the month, I have put all these files I have into a folder. So I have a file on cancer, a cancer folder, that has 108 of the best of my 175 files on cancer. Everything you need to know. You need to learn how to deal with cancer. Because when you get rid of cancer, you have to understand that we got to do more than just clean the bathrooms out. we have to address the issue of apoptosis. And I have 10 files specifically that deal with apoptosis. Then that's where we got to make sure the cells know how to die, because otherwise cancer makes cells immortal. They don't know how to die. So I have one folder for those, or 2 folders for those. And then what I've done recently is I added to those 134 more files on aging, put them into 7 categories: 25 age-related diseases, 22 other medical conditions, as well as all the other files. So altogether in my one folder that has a total of 305 files, there's 81 diseases. When you look at my file on cancers, I have 34 separate files on cancer. If I'm going to study prostate cancer, or breast cancer, or colon cancer, I'm going to create a file for it so I can analyze it and study it. Some of my files are ancient. They're decades old and they're hundreds of pages long. Nowadays, when I study something, I can learn really quick what they're doing. I know what to look for. I color code things. Oh, it's in this stage, it's in this location. You guys don't know, and you admit it. Now, again, this video is all about anti-aging strategies. So number 1 is you got to clean out your bathrooms. Take a solid food vacation. I got a seminar on how to do that. You got to eat your species-specific diet. Most importantly, we want to eat those biophotons. And then when it comes to exercise, I explain the importance to avoid mitochondrial dysfunction, because exercise upregulates mitochondrial function. But when you look at all of our body systems, you look at all the ways we can exercise, I'm convinced, because of what I've been doing lately, the most important system we need to make sure is healthy is our fascia system. It's the structure our whole body subsists on. It's as pervasive as our lymph system. Everything in our body is held in place because of this scaffolding structure, this collective collagen network of connective tissues. Everything's all one. We need to not think of how the books show the body separated with different muscles and different body parts. It's all one system. Instead of 600 muscles, think of one muscle being poured into 600 pockets. When you stretch and move the body, you want to do everything all together at one time. So when I'm stretching like an octopus, move my arms and fingers and bending everything and stretching everything as much as I can. And why is that so important? Because the body has to communicate. Let's quickly look at our body systems. Remember, a bunch of cells, 2 fluids. Cells form tissues, tissues form organs, organs and tissues form body systems. A bunch of cells, 12 body systems, 2 fluids. We got the lymphatic system and the circulatory system. Then we have a bathroom for those, that's the renal system, that's the kidneys. Then we have 2 main kitchens. We've got a digestive system and a respiratory system for the oxygen. So there's 5 body systems. Now the body needs to communicate. We've got a nervous system. I already explained a little bit about the autonomic nervous system and the enteric nervous system. And then we also have the endocrine glands. The body has to communicate. But then we got 3 more body systems that might apply to this whole part of communication, because the integumentary system, that's the skin. Our skin is converting the sunshine, the cholesterol in my skin is converting that sunshine to vitamin D, and vitamin D is really a hormone. Hormones are part of our body's communication system. In addition to that, we might be able to include the fascia system too. Why is the fascia system so important? Why do I emphasize why it's so important to stretch? Because most of us get dehydrated, and those fascial layers, if we don't use them, we lose them, and they get sticky and dehydrated. Nerves go up through those layers, so if you're having health issues, it might be because your body's not able to communicate. Is it the nervous system? Well, 40% of your diseases of the elderly have problems in that area. Are your endocrine glands having a problem? Yeah, that could cause a problem too. How about your fascia system? Can you touch your toes? Can you cross your legs, go down, and come all the way back up without using your hands? A lot of ways you can test your aging progress. And I'm convinced that of everything one can do, one of the most important things to do is to keep the fascia system stretched and flexible. I've been doing a lot of full body squats. I think that's one of the best things you can do to stretch the whole body. It's all like doing a downward dog, if you're familiar with that yoga position. A full squat. One of the worst inventions for Western society is a toilet where we're sitting down. Other places around the world, people naturally are squatting all day long. And when you squat, it's amazing how it stretches everything. If you're having problems in your knees, shoulders, it can address so many problems. So I can't emphasize enough, if you want an anti-aging strategy, start doing some yoga, do multiple joint stretches. Don't just stretch one joint at a time. stretch as much as your body that's related, because it's all connected. We have to think holistically. Once again, the body's nothing but a chariot pulled by a couple dozen horses. 12 essential needs, 12 body systems. In addition to the ones I mentioned, we have a reproductive system, we have a muscular system, and a skeletal system. So the main thing we need to understand, folks, is that we can do more for our own health and well-being than anyone else. To do that, you have to get educated. First step is you got to learn why you're sick. If you've got dementia, if your parents have dementia, you need to learn about it. I guarantee you cannot find the resources on the internet anywhere. Look at my cancer files. I have 175 files on cancer. I put that in one folder, put 108 of them in a folder, and zipped it out to people. One of those files is on cancertutor.com, one of the best alternative cancer websites on the internet. I got that whole file, or that whole website, in one file, and that's only one of them. You've got to become educated. That's the first step in getting healthy. You play an active role in getting healthy. You got to learn why you're sick, and then once you find out why you're sick, you got to do something about it. You got to decide to be cured. Second step in Buddhism's Eightfold Path. You got to do the hardest part of the journey. Take the first step. Test an idea as time has come. Start off your journey for a better life by taking a solid food vacation if you've never done that before. And if you have, every year you should do one at least a week, 2 weeks, maybe a month. Because we don't live in an ideal world anymore, even if you're eating perfectly. It's hard to live in a stress-free world. It's hard to live in a pollution-free world. We need to be more proactive about our health and take an active role. And when people come down with dementia, we know what happens, don't we? We see what happens when grandpa comes down with dementia. It can ruin a whole family. Same thing happens with cancer. When someone gets cancer, the whole family gets cancer. And we go to our experts and they say, we don't know the cause. I'm an ignorant doctor. Maybe you should fear me more than the disease. It's difficult to get a man to understand something when his salary depends on his not understanding it. Got to think about that one for a while. The fasting cure, Upton Sinclair, he knew the power of a solid food vacation. That's what we're talking about here, folks. Take a solid food vacation. Give yourself what it wants more than anything else. You've been abusing it, most of us have. Been eating the wrong foods, making those 5 mistakes, the 5 bad eating habits. If you're not ready to take a solid food vacation, start off by correcting the 6th mistake, intermittent fasting. Start off by just cutting back on as many of these mistakes as you can. Eat more raw fruits and vegetables, less cooked food, less animal products, the less the better. You don't need any of them. There's nothing in them that we need. If you got to cook a plant to eat it, we shouldn't eat it. You can't eat broccoli and cauliflower raw. Kind of tells us we shouldn't eat it, right? We don't have 4 stomachs, or we don't have that type of system to digest that heavy cellulose. That's hard to digest. We have to respect our body's limitations. Cut back on the processed foods. If there's one food group you can cut back on, my gosh, that's the biggest of all, isn't it? There are so many processed foods right now that are making us sick. Ultra processed foods. And they're so much different here in America than they are in other countries. I've seen labels of the same product in another country, and the label's a third the size. It doesn't have any of those long words you can't even pronounce. It's chemicals. It's criminal what they're doing to our food supply, and how our experts have no idea. None of our experts understand the real cause of disease. I know they don't study the concept of totality. I know they don't use logic. They're guilty of monas ponens, of putting the cart before the horse for a problem within their control. They're not even taught that the body can heal itself. No wonder. According to them, diseases are due to inappropriate signals. Got to interfere with that process. That's not a solution, folks. We are the solution. And it begins by acquiring the knowledge we need to make a better decision. So that's where I'm headed right now. I'm going to jump into my computer, and in just a moment, I'm going to start showing you some of my files, and I guarantee you when you do, ow, you're in for a treat.